What if you were a millionaire who discovered your whole life was built on a lie? Picture this: a wealthy businessman takes his supermodel girlfriend to the most exclusive restaurant in town, only to bump into his ex-wife working as a janitor, with 2 kids who look exactly like him. 5 years of secrets, blocked messages, and a mother who orchestrated it all. This is a story about family redemption and finding true wealth in the most unexpected places. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below. And if you want to hear how this incredible story unfolds, hit that subscribe button and smash the like. Let's dive in. The October fog rolled in from the Pacific, wrapping San Francisco in its familiar embrace as Emmett Walsh Montgomery adjusted his Hermes tie in the reflection of his Bentley's tinted window. At 40, he embodied everything the Montgomery name represented: wealth, influence, and an impeccable sense of style that made him a regular feature in society pages. "Ready, darling," Cordelia Barnes, his 26-year-old model girlfriend, emerged from the passenger side in a designer dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Her practiced smile gleamed under the streetlights of Pacific Heights. "Our table at Lumiere awaits," Emmett replied, offering his arm. 1 year together, a record for him since his divorce 5 years ago. The restaurant's warm glow beckoned. From across the street, its exclusive clientele visible through floor-to-ceiling windows. As they approached, a figure caught Emmett's eye, a woman in a faded uniform pushing a cleaning cart toward the service entrance. Time stopped. Willa. The name escaped his lips before he could stop it. The woman froze, her shoulders tensing. Slowly she turned, and Emmett's breath caught. Those same hazel eyes that had once looked at him with love now held a mixture of shock and something else. "Fear, Emmett." Her voice was barely a whisper. Cordelia's grip tightened on his arm. "Do you know this person?" But Emmett wasn't listening. His attention had shifted to the bus stop, where 2 small figures sat, on a bench, backpacks at their feet. 2 boys, perhaps 5 years old, with sandy hair catching the streetlight. One was reading a book, while the other hummed softly, swinging his legs. Then the boy with the book looked up, and Emmett stared into a perfect mirror of his own green eyes, the distinctive Walsh Montgomery eyes that had graced family portraits for generations. "Mama," the boy called out, his voice carrying a protective edge beyond his years. "Everything okay?" Willa's face drained of color. "I'm fine, Dorian. Stay with your brother." The other boy, the one who'd been humming, looked up too, and Emmett felt the world tilt. Identical green eyes, identical features. Twins. His twins. "Willa." Emmett's voice cracked. "Are they?" "Please," she whispered, glancing nervously at the restaurant's security camera. "Not here, not now." "Emmett, what is going on?" Cordelia's voice had risen an octave. "Who are these children?" But Emmett couldn't tear his gaze away from the boys. 5 years, they had to be 5 years old. The timeline aligned perfectly with... "I tried to tell you," Willa said softly, her eyes glistening. "I tried so many times." The Lumiere reservation went unused. Instead, Emmett found himself in a 24-hour diner near Fillmore, watching his sons, devour pancakes while Willa sat across from him, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. Cordelia had left in a fury, calling him crazy for canceling their anniversary dinner. He'd deal with that later. Right now, nothing mattered except the 2 boys, alternating between curious glances at him and protective looks at their mother. "Dorian and Ronan," Willa said, answering his unspoken question. "Dorian's older by 2 minutes. He's the protective one. Ronan's our artist." "I can count to 1,000, Dorian announced, syrup on his chin. "And I know all the state capitals." "I can play Happy Birthday on the guitar," Ronan added, not to be outdone. "Mama taught me." Emmett's chest tightened. "Willa, why didn't you—" "I did try." Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. "Letters, emails, phone calls. Everything bounced back or went unanswered. Your mother's lawyer sent a cease and desist order when I was 6 months pregnant." "What?" The word came out sharper than intended, causing both boys to look up. Emmett forced himself to soften his tone. "My mother knew." Willa's laugh was bitter. "According to the investigator who showed up at my apartment, she knew everything. Where I worked, where I lived, when I went to prenatal appointments. The message was clear: stay away from the Montgomery family. Emmett ran his hands through his hair, a gesture that Dorian immediately mirrored, though his smaller hands barely ruffled his sandy locks. The similarity was uncanny. "I thought you chose to disappear," Emmett said quietly. "After the divorce, after I accused you of—" He couldn't finish. The memory of that final fight, fueled by fabricated evidence of infidelity, still burned with shame. "Mama cries sometimes," Ronan said suddenly, his young voice cutting through the tension. "When she thinks we're asleep. Is it because of you?" The innocence of the question hit Emmett like a physical blow. Willa reached over to smooth Ronan's hair. "No, baby. Mama's just tired sometimes from working." 3 jobs, Dorian supplied helpfully. Day cleaning, night cleaning, and weekend. Store. 3 jobs. His ex-wife, the woman who'd once shared his penthouse, was working 3 jobs to support their children while he'd been living in ignorant luxury. "I want to help," Emmett said firmly. "Whatever you need. We don't need your money." Willa's voice was sharp. "We've managed fine for 5 years." "It's not about the money." He looked at the boys, memorizing every detail of their faces. "It's about them. They deserve to know their father." Dorian's green eyes narrowed, an expression so familiar it made Emmett's heart ache. "You're our dad." The diner seemed to fade away. Emmett nodded, not trusting his voice. "Why weren't you there before?" Dorian's question held no accusation, just genuine curiosity that was somehow worse. "Because," Emmett said slowly, meeting his son's gaze, "I made a terrible mistake. I didn't know about you and your brother, but I'm here now and I'm not going anywhere." Ronan tugged on his mother's sleeve. "Does this mean we get 2 birthdays? Now one with Mama and one with—" He paused, testing the word. "Dad." The simple acceptance in Ronan's voice brought tears to Willa's eyes. She quickly wiped them away, but not before Emmett noticed. "We'll figure it out," she said softly. "Together." As Emmett watched his sons finish their pancakes, he felt the carefully constructed walls of his world beginning to crumble. Tomorrow, he would confront his mother. Tomorrow, he would reshape his entire life. But tonight, he just wanted to watch his boys eat pancakes and memorize the sound of their laughter. Beatrice Walsh Montgomery's Pacific Heights mansion stood like a monument to old money and older secrets. As Emmett climbed the marble steps the next morning, his mind reeled with the previous night's revelations. The brass lion door knocker, a family heirloom from the 1800s, seemed to judge him as he rang the bell. "Emmett!" His mother appeared in the doorway, impeccable as always in her Chanel suit. "You missed your meeting with the Havisham group this morning. Sterling called 3 times. We need to talk, Mother." Something in his tone made her perfect composure falter. She stepped aside, leading him to the parlor where afternoon tea was already laid out, a ritual unchanged since his childhood. "I met my sons last night," Emmett said without preamble. "The sons you knew about, the sons you kept from me." Beatrice's hand paused midway to the teapot. For a moment, the only sound was the tick of the grandfather clock. "I don't know what that woman told you. That woman has a name, Willa, my ex-wife, the mother of your grandsons." Emmett's voice was dangerously quiet. "And she told me about the investigator, the cease and desist order. 5 years, Mother, 5 years I could have known them." Beatrice set down the teapot with precise control. "Everything I did was to protect this family's interests." Whose interests? Certainly not Dorian's or Ronan's. His mother's eyes flickered at the names. So she did know them. The investigator had been thorough. "They're beautiful boys," she said, finally sinking into her chair. "Dorian has the Montgomery. Joe, Ronan has your grandfather's nose." The admission stunned him. "You've seen them. Photographs, reports. They excel in school despite their circumstances." She couldn't help the slight sneer on the last word. "But Emmett, you must understand. That woman, Willa, she was never suitable. A public school. Teacher from Arkansas. No family connections, no social standing. She was my wife. A wife you divorced because she betrayed you." "No." Emmett stood pacing to the window. "A wife I divorced because someone made me believe she betrayed me. Tell me, Mother, did you have anything to do with those photographs? The evidence of her infidelity. The silence stretched too long. Oh, God. Emmett turned to face her. You fabricated it all. I had help from a professional, very discreet, very convincing. Beatrice's voice was unapologetic. You were infatuated. She was pregnant. I couldn't let you throw away your future for love for my own children, for a mistake. Beatrice stood, her composure cracking. Do you know what this will do to our standing, to the company? Montgomery Industries has contracts with the most conservative firms in the country. A scandal involving illegitimate children? They're not illegitimate. Willa and I were married when they were conceived. Technicalities won't matter to the press or to our partners. Emmett studied his mother, really looked at her. Beneath the perfect makeup and designer clothes, he saw something he'd never noticed before: fear. Not of scandal, but something deeper. What happened to you? He asked softly. When did preserving appearances become more important than family? Beatrice turned away, but not before he caught a glimpse of pain in her eyes. You don't understand what it cost to maintain this legacy, what I sacrificed, what your father demanded. She stopped abruptly. Dad's been gone for 15 years, Mother. His expectations haven't. She straightened, rebuilding her walls. Everything I've done has been to ensure the Montgomery name survives, including protecting you from your own poor judgment. By stealing 5 years of my sons' lives, by forcing Willa to work 3 jobs while raising them alone. She made her choice. She could have accepted the financial settlement I offered, generous terms in exchange for complete separation from our family. Emmett felt sick. You tried to buy her off. She refused. Stubborn woman. There was a note in Beatrice's voice. Respect said her children deserved to know their father eventually, even if he didn't want them. But I did want them. I would have wanted them if I'd known. Would you? Beatrice challenged. 5 years ago, you were acquiring companies, traveling, constantly building our empire. Would you have given that up for dirty diapers and school plays? The question hit too close to uncomfortable truths. Who had he been 5 years ago? Ambitious, driven, convinced that success meant crushing competitors and accumulating wealth. Would that man have embraced fatherhood? I guess we'll never know, he said finally. But I know who I am now, and I'm going to be in my sons' lives, whether you approve or not. And Cordelia, your business partners, the social circles that maintain our influence. Beatrice's voice turned practical, calculating. Have you considered the fallout? Let it fall. His mother stared at him as if seeing a stranger. You're serious. Dead serious. Emmett moved toward the door. I'm done living. By your rules, Mother. And if you want any relationship with your grandsons, you'll need to accept that. As he reached the foyer, her voice stopped him. Emmett. When he turned, she was standing in the parlor doorway, suddenly looking every one of her 70 years. The boys, do they ask about me? Ronan wants to know if he has a grandmother who bakes cookies. Dorian wonders why we don't have family dinners like his classmates. Something shifted in Beatrice's expression, a crack in the facade. I could learn to bake. It was such an unexpected admission that Emmett almost smiled. Maybe start with meeting them first. He left her standing there, surrounded by priceless antiques and worthless pretenses, wondering if she'd choose her grandsons over her prejudices. The fog had lifted by the time he reached the street, revealing a startlingly clear San Francisco. Morning. Change was coming, whether the Montgomery matriarch was ready or not. The Hunters Point Elementary School was a far cry from the manicured grounds of Emmett's alma mater. Chain-link fences instead of ivy-covered walls, concrete play areas instead of grass fields. But the laughter echoing from the playground was exactly the same. Emmett parked his Bentley, conspicuous among the older sedans and minivans, and checked his watch. 3:15. Willa had reluctantly agreed to let him pick up the boys, though she'd texted him 3 times with reminders: Dorian's inhaler, Ronan's special snack, the exact spot where they waited for her. Parents and guardians clustered near the gates, some eyeing him curiously. His custom suit and luxury car marked him as an outsider in this working-class neighborhood. You're new, a woman observed, shifting her baby to her other hip. Private school transfer. Something like that. He scanned the playground, his heart jumping when he spotted two familiar sandy heads. The bell rang, and children poured out like colorful confetti. Dorian emerged first, his backpack neatly positioned, holding Ronan's hand as they navigated the crowd. Always the protector, Emmett noted with pride. "There they are," Ronan said, pointing at the usual spot where their mother waited. His face fell slightly. "Where's Mama?" "She's working," Dorian explained patiently. "Remember, she said someone else would—" He stopped, green eyes widening as he spotted Emmett. Emmett raised his hand in an awkward wave. The boys approached cautiously, Dorian slightly in front of his brother. "Hi," Emmett said, suddenly nervous. How did one greet their children after missing 5 years? "Your mom said I could pick you up today." "She texted us," Dorian confirmed, showing him the message on an old flip phone. "Said you'd take us home and wait until she gets back from her shift." "I brought snacks," Emmett offered, holding up a bag from the city's most expensive organic market. "I wasn't sure what you liked, so I got everything." Ronan's eyes lit up. "Everything. Fruit roll-ups, goldfish crackers, those yogurt tubes that don't need refrigeration." "We usually just get apples," Dorian said carefully. "Mama says processed food is expensive." Another reminder of struggles he'd never shared. Emmett knelt to their level. "Well, today's special. We can have apples and treats, deal." Ronan grinned, but Dorian's expression remained guarded. "Mama says we shouldn't take expensive things from people." "I'm not people, I'm your dad." The words felt foreign but right, and dads are allowed to spoil their kids sometimes. "Are you really our dad?" Ronan asked suddenly. "Like for real, not just for today?" "For real. For always." Emmett's throat tightened. "If you'll let me." Ronan considered this. "Do you know how to play catch?" Yes. I played baseball in college." "Can you help with math homework?" This from Dorian. "Absolutely. I run a company. Math is kind of my thing." "Do you have a dog?" Ronan again. "No, but I've been thinking about getting one." "What kind do you like?" The questions continued as they walked to the car, each one revealing dreams and wishes he'd missed. Simple things. Bedtime stories, help with school projects, someone to throw a ball with in the park. "Whoa!" Ronan stopped, short when he saw the Bentley. "Is this a limousine?" "Just a regular car," Emmett said, then caught himself. Nothing about his life had been regular. Well, fancier than most. "Do you want to pick the music?" The drive to their apartment building took them through neighborhoods Emmett had only seen from freeway overpasses. Convenience stores with barred windows, laundromats with faded signs, but also murals that brightened. Entire blocks and small parks where families gathered. Their building was modest, but well-maintained, 3 stories with a secured entrance. "We're on the top floor," Dorian informed him, pulling out a key. "Mama says it's safer up high." The apartment was small. The entire space would fit in Emmett's living room, but spotless. Children's artwork covered the refrigerator, books lined homemade shelves, and family photographs decorated every surface. Photos of the boys at various ages, Willa with them at the beach holiday celebrations in this tiny space. A complete life lived without him. "This is our room," Ronan announced, dragging him to see bunk beds covered with superhero sheets. "I'm on top because Dorian gets scared of heights." "I do not," Dorian protested. "I just prefer the bottom for practical reasons." Their personalities were becoming clearer. Ronan the dreamer, Dorian the pragmatist. Both brilliant in their own ways. "Want to see my guitar?" Ronan was already pulling a child-sized instrument from under his bed. "Mama got it at a yard sale, but we fixed it up together." As Ronan strummed simple chords, Emmett noticed Dorian watching him, carefully cataloguing his reactions. This child had learned early to protect his family. "You hurt Mama before," Dorian said quietly while Ronan played. "She doesn't think we know, but we heard her crying. Are you going to hurt her again?" The directness stole Emmett's breath. How did one explain adult failures to a 5-year-old? "I made mistakes," he said finally. "Big ones. But I'm here to fix them, not to cause more hurt." "Pinky promise." Dorian held out his small finger, deadly serious. Emmett linked his pinky with his son's. "Pinky promise." The afternoon passed in a blur of homework help snack negotiations and Ronan's impromptu concert. When Willa's key turned in the lock at 6, Emmett was on the floor with the boys building an elaborate Lego creation. She paused in the doorway, still in her cleaning uniform, taking in the scene. Her expression was unreadable. "Mama," Ronan launched himself at her. "Dad helped with my spelling words and he knows all about decimals, and he says maybe we can get a dog." "Did he now?" Willa's eyes met Emmett's over their son's head. "A theoretical dog," Emmett clarified, standing up. "Pending maternal approval. Look, Mama." Dorian held up his math worksheet. "I got them all right. Dad showed me a trick for remembering multiplication tables." The casual use of Dad seemed to surprise her as much as it thrilled Emmett. She set down her purse, exhaustion evident in every movement. "Have you eaten?" Emmett asked. "I'll make something in a minute. Boys, go wash your hands." As they scampered off, Emmett stepped closer. "Let me take you all to dinner. Somewhere fun for the kids. Emmett, please, you've been working all day. Let me do this one thing." She hesitated, and he could see her internal debate. Pride versus practicality, old hurt versus new possibilities. "Okay," she said finally. "But somewhere simple. They're not used to fancy places." "I know just the spot." As the boys returned chattering about their restaurant options, Emmett caught Willa watching him with something like wonder. Perhaps she too was seeing what he'd discovered that afternoon, that beneath the Montgomery name and corporate success, he might actually have what it took to be a father. Monday morning arrived with unseasonable warmth, the kind of October day that made San Francisco feel like Southern California. Emmett strode into Montgomery Industries headquarters, his usual confidence intact, despite the whispers that followed him through the marble lobby. By now everyone knew. The Chronicle's society page had run a small item about him dining at a family restaurant with his previously unknown children. Social media had done the rest. "Emmett!" Sterling Hawkins intercepted him at the elevator, his expression grim. Sterling had been his father's protégé, staying on after the old man's death to help guide the company. Now in his 60s, he served as Emmett's chief advisor and the board's unofficial spokesman. "We need to talk." The executive conference room held 5 other board members, their faces ranging from concerned to disapproving. Emmett took his seat at the head of the table, refusing to be cowed. "Quite a weekend you had," Sterling began, sliding a tablet across the polished surface. The screen showed social media posts, each one speculating about the Montgomery heir's secret family. "My personal life affects our corporate image," Margaret Chen interrupted. As head of international operations, she rarely minced words. 3 of our Asian partners have already called with concerns. Family values matter in their culture. "Family values," Emmett leaned forward. "I'm taking responsibility for my children. How is that not a family value?" "Children born to a woman of questionable background," offered Harrison Wells, whose old money roots ran as deep as the Montgomerys. "Our investors expect a certain standard." "Careful, Harrison." Emmett's voice carried an edge that made the older man shift uncomfortably. "You're talking about my son's mother." Sterling raised a conciliatory hand. "No one's attacking anyone. We're simply concerned about market perception. Our stock dipped 2 points this morning. It'll recover." "Will it?" Margaret pulled up financial projections. "The Havisham Group is reconsidering their merger. The Saudis are nervous about their energy partnership. Even the governor's office called. Apparently your mother's substantial campaign contributions might be affected by this situation." Emmett studied the faces around the table. These people had helped build Montgomery Industries into a fortune. 500 company. They deserved answers. 5 years ago I divorced my wife due to false information, he said slowly. I recently discovered she'd been pregnant with twins, my sons, and that attempts to contact me were blocked. I'm now trying to make things right. By parading them around the city, Harrison scoffed. By being their father. At what cost? Sterling's question was genuine. Emmett, we've worked too hard to let personal drama derail our expansion plans. The Japanese deal alone will proceed as planned. Emmett stood his decision crystallizing. My relationship with my children is non-negotiable. Any partner who has a problem with that isn't someone we should be doing business with anyway. The room erupted in protests. You can't be serious. The shareholders will revolt. Your father would never— My father is dead. The words silenced them, and maybe it's time we stopped running this company based on what he would have wanted. Margaret's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, her face paling. CNN Business is running a story. Montgomery Air acknowledges love children stock tumbles. Love children. The phrase made Emmett's jaw clench. Schedule a press conference for this. Afternoon. Emmett, no, Sterling stood too. Let PR handle this. Issue a carefully worded statement. I'm done with carefully worded statements, done with image management and perception control. He looked around the room. We're going to tell the truth. The truth, Harrison laughed bitterly. The truth is you're throwing away everything for a woman who betrayed you and 2 children who— Who what? Emmett's voice went dangerously quiet. Choose your next words very carefully, Harrison. The older man swallowed. Who could destroy everything we've built? Or maybe, Emmett said, heading for the door, they're exactly what this company needs. A reminder that there are things more important than stock prices and merger deals. He left them sitting in stunned silence, their carefully ordered world, tilting off its axis. In the hallway, his assistant Jenny hurried to keep pace. Sir, about the press conference, 3 o'clock. Main auditorium. And Jenny. He paused at his office door. Clear my schedule for tomorrow afternoon. I have a school play to attend. Her professional mask slipped, revealing a small smile. Of course, sir. What kind of play? First-grade production. Of the 3 Little Pigs, Ronan's playing the wolf. Sounds important. It is. He entered his office where a crayon drawing of 3 stick figures, 1 tall, 2 small, now held pride of place on his wall. More important than anything on that schedule. Through his floor-to-ceiling windows, San Francisco sparkled in the unusual sunshine. Change was uncomfortable, Emmett reflected, but sometimes discomfort was the price of growth. His phone buzzed with texts. Willa reminding him about the play, Dorian asking if he could visit the office someday, Ronan wanting to know if wolves were really bad or just misunderstood. Then another message from a number he didn't recognize. This is Beatrice. I've been thinking about cookie recipes. When can I meet them? Emmett smiled, typing back. How about after tomorrow's play? Fair warning, you'll be meeting a wolf. The response came quickly. I've faced scarier things. At charity board meetings. I'll bring chocolate chip. Perhaps the Montgomery legacy wasn't crumbling after all. Perhaps it was simply evolving into something better, something real, something worth passing on to 2 green-eyed boys who were already changing everything, just by existing. The auditorium of Hunters Point Elementary had seen better days. Folding chairs squeaked on scuffed linoleum, and the stage curtains bore evidence of countless small hands, but the excitement crackling through the air rivaled any Broadway opening night. Emmett arrived early, having left the office despite Sterling's protests about an emergency board meeting. He'd changed from his suit into jeans and a button-down, his attempt at blending in, though the Patek Philippe watch still drew glances. You came— Ronan peeked out from behind the curtain, his wolf ears already drooping adorably. Mama said you might be too busy. Never too busy for the big bad wolf, Emmett assured him. Break a leg out there. Why would I break my leg that would hurt? Before Emmett could explain theatrical traditions, a teacher herded Ronan backstage. Other parents filed in claiming seats with diaper bags and cameras. He recognized a few from pickup duty, the mother with the baby, a grandfather who always wore a veteran's cap. Mind if I sit? A familiar voice made him turn. Beatrice stood in the aisle, impeccable as always, but holding a Tupperware container that had never graced the Montgomery kitchen. Mother! He stood quickly, shocked. How did you— Willa texted me the address, said I should see my grandson perform before meeting them properly. She settled beside him, her designer purse looking incongruous against the plastic chair. I brought cookies, chocolate chip from scratch. The container's contents were slightly lopsided, some cookies darker than others. The effort behind them was worth more than perfection. They look wonderful, he said softly. Before she could respond, Willa appeared with Dorian, who was clutching a program he'd obviously designed himself. She stopped short, seeing Beatrice. Mrs. Montgomery. Willa. Beatrice stood, uncertainty flickering across her face. Thank you for inviting me. The boys should know their grandmother. Willa's tone was carefully neutral. Whatever happened between us? An awkward moment stretched until Dorian tugged his mother's hand. Mom, we need to sit. Ronan made me promise to clap the loudest. They settled into their seats, Emmett between his mother and Willa Dorian on Willa's other side. The lights dimmed and a teacher welcomed everyone to first grade's spectacular fall production. What followed was pure chaos, disguised as theatre. The three pigs forgot lines, the narrator giggled through her speeches, and several background trees wandered, on stage at the wrong moments. But when Ronan appeared in his grey wolf costume, Emmett felt his chest swell with pride. Little pig, let me in," Ronan growled with impressive enthusiasm. "Not by the hair on my chinny chin-chin," squeaked a pig, who looked suspiciously close to tears. "Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll... Ronan paused, clearly forgetting the line. The audience held its breath. "Blow your house in," Dorian whispered loudly from his seat. "And I'll blow your house in," Ronan finished triumphantly, puffing out his cheeks with such force that his wolf ears finally fell off. The audience erupted in encouraging applause. Beside him, Emmett heard an unexpected sound, his mother laughing. Not her society laugh, practiced and contained, but genuine amusement. "He's wonderful," she whispered. "So confident, like you at that age." The play continued its charming disaster course, ending with an unexpected twist where the wolf became friends with the pigs and they all shared vegetable soup. Very first grade, very inclusive. As parents collected their performers, Ronan bounded over, now missing half his costume. Did you see me blow the house down?" "You were perfect," Willa assured him, fixing his hair. "The best wolf ever." "I forgot my line, but Dorian helped," Ronan announced proudly, then noticed Beatrice. His green eyes, so like Emmett's, studied her curiously. "Are you the cookie grandmother?" The simple question seemed to undo Beatrice completely. Yes, I brought some. If your mother says it's okay." Willa nodded and Beatrice offered the container with hands that trembled slightly. Ronan took a cookie bit into it and grinned. "They're lumpy. I like lumpy cookies best." "Ronan," Willa warned. "It's all right," Beatrice said quickly. "They are lumpy. It was my first attempt." "You made them yourself?" Dorian had approached more cautiously, but the mention of homemade cookies drew him in. "Our other grandmother, Mama's mom, lives far away. She sends cookies at Christmas." "Well," Beatrice offered him the container, "perhaps you could have 2 cookie grandmothers." As the boys debated cookie merits, Emmett caught Willa's eye. She looked as stunned as he felt. This woman making awkward small talk with chocolate on her fingers bore little resemblance to the ice queen who'd ruled San Francisco society for decades. "There's a cast party in the cafeteria," the teacher announced. "Juice boxes and pizza for our stars." "Can Dad come and cookie Grandma?" Ronan asked Willa. The simple inclusion, the assumption that they were all family, now hung in the air, like a challenge. "If they'd like to," Willa said carefully. The cafeteria was chaos. 24 sugar-high first graders celebrating their theatrical triumph. Emmett found himself sitting on a tiny chair, helping Ronan balance a paper plate of pizza, while Beatrice attempted to understand Dorian's explanation of how wolves were misrepresented in fairy tales. "In real life, wolves are social animals," Dorian explained seriously. "They take care of their pack. That's why Ronan's wolf wanted to be friends at the end." "Pack," Beatrice repeated thoughtfully. "Like family." "Exactly. Do you want to see my book about wolves? It's in my backpack." As Dorian dragged his grandmother to the coat area, Emmett felt a shift in the air. Willa had moved closer, her voice low. "She's trying," she said simply. "I know. It's unexpected. 5 years of reports from private investigators, but she never once saw them smile, never heard them laugh." Willa watched Beatrice help Dorian locate his backpack. Maybe she finally realized what she was missing. "What about you?" Emmett asked. "Can you forgive her?" "Forgive me?" Willa was quiet for A long moment. Forgiveness isn't a switch you flip, it's a choice you make every day. She looked at their sons, now showing Beatrice how to make wolf ears with their hands. But for them I can try. The party wound down as tired wolves and pigs began to droop. As they gathered coats and backpacks, Beatrice hesitated by the door. I was wondering, she began, uncharacteristically uncertain. Perhaps Sunday dinner, nothing formal, just family. The word hung there. Family. Not the Montgomery dynasty or the social register connections, but these two boys with chocolate-stained faces, their exhausted mother, and three adults trying to build bridges across old pain. "We'd like that," Willa answered before Emmett could. "What time?" As they finalized plans, Emmett realized this was what he'd been missing in all his corporate success. Not the perfect image or the carefully controlled narrative, but these messy, beautiful moments of connection. Ronan had fallen asleep against his shoulder by the time they reached the parking lot, still wearing one wolf ear. Dorian walked between Willa and Beatrice, chattering about costume improvements for next year's play. "Thank you," Emmett said to both women, "for letting this happen." Beatrice touched his arm, a rare gesture of affection. Sometimes the best things are the ones we don't plan. As they went their separate ways, Emmett carefully transferred the sleeping wolf to his car seat. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, the press conference, fallout board meetings, angry investors. But tonight, he'd watched his son be a reformed, big bad wolf, and nothing on Wall Street could compare to that triumph. The Montgomery Industries Auditorium had hosted announcements of billion-dollar acquisitions, groundbreaking technological advances, and visits from world leaders. But Emmett had never felt the weight of its history as acutely as he did, standing behind the podium facing a sea of reporters. "Thank you for coming," he began, ignoring the teleprompter's carefully crafted statement. Sterling, standing in the wings, looked ready to have a coronary. "5 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I divorced my wife based on false evidence of infidelity, evidence that I've recently learned was fabricated to destroy our marriage." The room erupted in camera flashes and shouted questions. He raised a hand for silence. "During our separation, Willa discovered she was pregnant with twins. Every attempt she made to contact me was blocked by people who thought they were protecting the Montgomery family interests." He paused, meeting the cameras directly. "Those people were wrong." The big, prepared statement on the teleprompter scrolled uselessly. "This wasn't about damage control anymore. I have 2 sons, Dorian and Ronan Walsh Montgomery. They're 5 years old, brilliant kind, and everything I never knew I needed in my life. Their mother has raised them alone while working multiple jobs, showing more strength and dignity than anyone I've known. Mr. Montgomery," a reporter from the Financial Times stood. "What about reports that acknowledging these children could cost the company millions in conservative partnerships? Then those millions aren't worth having." The answer came without hesitation. Montgomery Industries was built on innovation and integrity. If partners can't accept that family values include taking responsibility for our children, all our children, then we'll find partners who can. "What about your mother's role in this?" The TMZ reporter looked gleeful. "Sources say Beatrice Montgomery actively worked to hide your children." Emmett gripped the podium. "My mother made decisions she believed were best for the family business. She was wrong, but she's working to make amends. That's what families do. We make mistakes, we own them, and we do better." "Is there any chance of reconciliation with your ex-wife?" This from the Chronicle Society columnist. "Willa and I are focused on co-parenting our sons. Whatever happens beyond that." He thought of her at the school play, the way she'd defended his mother's attempts at change. "That's not a matter for public speculation." One last question. What message does this send to other executives who might be hiding similar situations? Emmett considered this. Children aren't scandals to be managed or problems to be solved. They're gifts. And any success that requires us to deny or hide our children isn't success at all. He stepped away from the podium, despite the continued shouting of questions. In the wings, Sterling looked like he'd aged a decade in 30 minutes. "Well," his advisor said dryly, "that was certainly honest." "How bad is it?" Sterling checked his phone. "Stock's down another 3 points. The Saudis officially pulled out. 2 board members are calling for an emergency session. He paused. But Walsh-Montgomery twins is trending mostly positive. Apparently people appreciate CEOs who act like actual humans. As they walked toward the executive elevator, Jenny intercepted them. "Sir, you have visitors in your office." Emmett frowned. "I thought we cleared the schedule." They insisted. Security recognized them from the Chronicle photos. His office door was ajar, and he could hear familiar voices inside. Pushing it open, he found Dorian sitting in his desk chair, spinning slowly, while Ronan explored the floor-to-ceiling windows. Willa stood nervously by the door. "Dad," Ronan ran over. "We saw you on TV at the dentist office. You were wearing your serious face." "Boys wanted to see where you work," Willa explained apologetically. "I tried to call, but—" "It's perfect timing." Emmett scooped up Ronan while Dorian climbed down from the chair. "Want the grand tour?" For the next hour, he forgot about stock, prices, and angry investors. The boys were fascinated by everything. The executive conference room like King Arthur's Round Table. Ronan declared the company museum, with its displays of Montgomery innovations, even the mundane copy room. Employees stared as they passed, but not with the hostility Emmett had expected. Many smiled, some waved at the boys. In the cafeteria, the head chef insisted on making special milkshakes for the young Mr. Montgomerys. "Your sons?" asked Maria, from accounting, who'd worked there since Emmett's father's time. "Dorian and Ronan," he confirmed, bracing for judgment. Instead, she beamed. "They have your eyes." "My grandson's the same age, handful, aren't they?" By the time they returned to his office, something had shifted. The building felt less like a monument to corporate power and more like a place where a father worked to support his family. "Is that us?" Dorian pointed to the crayon drawing on the wall. "Ronan made it," Emmett confirmed. "It's my favorite piece of art in the building." Willa had been quiet throughout the tour, but now she spoke. "Thank you for what you said. At the press conference. You didn't have to defend me." "Yes, I did. I should have defended you 5 years ago." Their eyes met over the boys' heads, a moment of understanding passing between them. Not forgiveness yet, but movement toward it. "Mr. Montgomery," Jenny appeared, at the door. "The board meeting in 10 minutes. Reality crashed back. Emmett nodded, then knelt to the boys' level. "I have to go to a meeting, but what if we had dinner tomorrow? All of us, your grandmother wants to try making spaghetti." "Can she make it lumpy like her cookies?" Ronan asked hopefully. "I'll make sure to request extra lumps." As they prepared to leave, Dorian hung back. "Dad, are you in trouble because of us?" The question hit hard. Emmett pulled his son close. "Never. You and your brother are the best thing that's ever happened to me. Whatever happens with the company, nothing matters more than you two, understood?" Dorian nodded solemnly. "Love you, Dad." The words, the first time either boy had said them, made everything else fade to insignificance. Stock prices, board rebellions, lost deals. None of it mattered against those 3 words. "Love you too, buddy. Both of you." After they left, Emmett straightened his tie and headed for the boardroom. Whatever waited for him there, he'd face it with the knowledge that 2 boys now called him Dad, and that was worth more than all the corporate empires in the world. The receptionist flagged him down as he passed. "Mr. Montgomery, Channel 7 wants a follow-up interview, and the Times is requesting a personal profile. The CEO who chose family. That's their angle." He almost laughed. After years of carefully managing his image, authenticity had become his most powerful asset. "Tell them I'll consider it, after my mother's spaghetti dinner." Walking into that boardroom, Emmett felt lighter than he had in years. The Montgomery legacy was evolving, and for the first time, it was becoming something worth passing on. An 80% drop in offshore partnerships, 60 million in cancelled contracts, and now Harrison Wells is threatening a proxy fight for control. Sterling slammed the portfolio onto the boardroom table, his usual composure shattered. "Tell me, Emmett, was your moment of honesty worth destroying everything 3 generations built?" The emergency board meeting had stretched into its 3rd hour. Outside San Francisco glittered in the late afternoon sun, oblivious to the corporate drama unfolding 40 floors above. "Those contracts were built on appearances, not substance," Emmett replied calmly. If they can't survive the truth, Margaret Chen interrupted, the truth is, our Singapore expansion is dead. The Dubai investors pulled out. Even the governor's office is reassessing our tax incentive package. Around the table, board members who'd supported him for years now avoided his eyes. Only Jenny, taking minutes in the corner, offered a sympathetic glance. There's a solution, Harrison Wells spoke for the first time, his thin smile reminding Emmett of a shark circling wounded prey. Step down as CEO, take a ceremonial role. Chairman Emeritus, perhaps. Let the board appoint interim leadership to stabilize things. By interim leadership, you mean yourself? Harrison shrugged. I've been with this company for 30 years. I understand what it takes to maintain the proper standards. Proper standards. Emmett stood, walking to the window. Below he could see the Hunters Point district where his sons lived, a world away from this glass tower. My son's school needs new computers. Their playground equipment is held together with duct tape. Their mother works 3 jobs to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. Where were our proper standards when we ignored communities like theirs? That's not our responsibility, Harrison began. Isn't it? Emmett turned back to the room. We made $4 billion in profit last year. What did we do with it? Stock buybacks, executive bonuses, maintaining appearances for partners who care more about bloodlines than innovation. You're being naive, Margaret said, though her tone had softened. Business isn't charity. No, but it doesn't have to be soulless either. He pulled up financial projections on the smart screen. Look at the demographics, millennials and Gen Z. Their consumers prefer companies with authentic values. They're tired of corporate doublespeak. My honesty might have cost us old money, but it's already attracting new partnerships. Theoretical partnerships, Sterling scoffed. Not theoretical. Jensen Technologies wants to discuss a joint venture. Their CEO has twins himself, the E. Morrison Foundation is interested in funding an education initiative. 3 Silicon Valley startups have reached out about collaborations. Startups? Harrison's voice dripped disdain. You'd replace established relationships with unproven ventures. I'd replace stagnation with innovation, fear with authenticity. Emmett looked around the table. The world is changing. We can change with it or become irrelevant. A knock interrupted the heated discussion. Jenny crossed to the door, returning with an unexpected visitor, Beatrice Walsh Montgomery. Mother. Emmett stared. She'd never attended a board meeting, preferring to influence from behind the scenes. Don't look so shocked, I am a major shareholder. She took an empty seat, her presence commanding despite her diminutive stature. I've been listening to your debates from the anteroom. Fascinating how quickly you've all turned on my son. Mrs. Montgomery, Harrison began smoothly, we're simply concerned about protecting the family legacy. My family's legacy, her voice could have frozen flame. Let me tell you about legacy, Harrison. My husband built this company through innovation and risk-taking, not by cowering before public opinion. He also, she paused, eyes glinting, kept extensive files on all his business associates, including you. Harrison paled. I don't know what you're implying. Don't you the Baxter Industries insider trading issue of '08, the quiet settlement with your former assistant, all documented naturally, as are similar indiscretions for several people in this room. The silence was deafening. Emmett stared at his mother, seeing her with new eyes. You wouldn't, Margaret whispered. Wouldn't I? You're threatening my son's position because he acknowledged his children. My grandchildren. If that's not worth fighting for, what is? Beatrice stood every inch the matriarch. So here's my proposal. Emmett remains CEO. We weather this storm together. Or I release everything and we see how the market reacts to that kind of truth. That's blackmail, Harrison sputtered. No, it's business, your kind of business. She moved toward the door, pausing beside Emmett. Though I prefer my son's approach, honest if sometimes costly. The boys are coming for dinner Sunday. You're all invited to meet the future of the Montgomery legacy. Those who attend keep their secrets buried. Those who don't... She smiled coldly. Well, transparency is trending, isn't it? After she left, the board's resistance crumbled. One by one they agreed to support Emmett's continued leadership, though Harrison's glare promised future challenges. Meeting adjourned, Emmett announced, exhausted, but victorious. As members filed out, Sterling lingered. "Your mother's more formidable than I realized." "She surprised me, too." Emmett gathered his papers. "Though I'm not sure I want to build the company on buried secrets. Sometimes you use the tools available." "But Emmett," Sterling's expression grew serious, "this reprieve is temporary. You need to show results, real partnerships, not just promises. Or next time even your mother's arsenal won't save you." Alone in the boardroom, Emmett sank into his chair. His phone buzzed with texts, Willa confirming Sunday dinner, Ronan asking if he could bring his wolf costume Dorian, wanting help with a school project about family businesses. Another message appeared from an unknown number. "Saw the press conference. Takes guts to own your mistakes publicly. Jensen Technologies would like to discuss how our companies might work together. Two dads who get it. Mark Jensen." Maybe the old guard was crumbling, but something new was rising from its foundations. Something built on truth rather than appearances, on family rather than facades. His desk phone rang. Jenny's voice. "Sir, the Times photographer is here for the profile shoot. They want you with the children's drawing visible in the background. Send them up." Emmett straightened his tie, then stopped. Instead, he loosened it slightly, rolled up his sleeves. If authenticity was his new brand, might as well start now. As the photographer set up, Emmett studied the crayon drawing. 3 stick figures holding hands. Such simple art, yet it had become the symbol of everything changing in his life. In Tati Mai, the company, in himself. "Ready when you are, Mr. Montgomery?" "Actually," Emmett said, pulling out his phone, "let me text my kids first, see if they want to be in the photo. This is their story, too." The photographer smiled. "Now that's a shot. The Times readers will love. Real CEO, real family, real life. Real life." After years of carefully constructed images, it felt revolutionary. And despite the stock prices and cancelled contracts, despite the board battles and uncertain future, Emmett wouldn't trade this new reality for all the artificial success in the world. The Montgomery Mansion's kitchen had been designed for caterers, not cooking. Professional-grade appliances lined the walls, most untouched since their installation, but on this Sunday afternoon it looked like a war zone. "Too much basil," Beatrice muttered, stirring a pot of tomato sauce. Flour dusted her silk. Blouse and her usually perfect hair showed signs of distress. "The recipe says to taste, but whose taste?" "Here, let me." Willa tied an apron over her simple dress. "My grandmother always said you know it's right when it smells like Sunday." Emmett watched from the doorway as the two women navigated around each other. His mother, who'd orchestrated their separation, and his ex-wife, who'd borne the consequences. The kitchen island between them felt like a metaphor for the distance they were trying to bridge. "Mom, we found the piano," Ronan's voice echoed from the music room. "Can I play it?" "If Mrs. Montgomery says yes," Willa called back. "Of course. He can play." Beatrice's voice softened whenever the boys were mentioned. "It hasn't been touched since—" She trailed off. "Since," Willa prompted gently. "Since my brother visited, 20 years ago." Beatrice focused intently on the source. "He was the musician in the family. Father disapproved. Said Montgomery's built things, didn't play things." Emmett had vague memories of Uncle James. Laughter. Jazz records arguments that ended with slammed doors. He'd stopped coming around when Emmett was 20. "Is he?" Willa began. "Alive, yes. Teaching music in Portland. We exchange Christmas cards." Beatrice's laugh was bitter. Another family connection sacrificed to the Montgomery image. Piano notes drifted in, choppy at first, then smoothing into a recognizable melody. "Happy Birthday" played with surprising competence for 5-year-old fingers. "He's quite good," Beatrice observed. "Gets it from you, perhaps," Willa suggested. "Musical talent often skips generations." "I wouldn't know. I was trained in appropriate instruments, harp, a little violin, nothing as expressive as piano." Emmett entered, fully kissing Willa's cheek in greeting, a gesture that felt natural and loaded with history. "Need help?" "Can you check on Dorian?" Willa asked. "He's been suspiciously quiet." He found his older son in the library surrounded by photo albums. Dorian looked up guiltily. "I wasn't snooping. They were just there." It's okay. Emmett sat beside him. What did you find? Is this you? Dorian pointed to a photo of 5-year-old Emmett in a tiny suit, unsmiling beside his father. That's me, same age as you. You look sad. Emmett studied the photo. Had he been sad or just trained early to present the right image? Maybe I was. This is your dad. Dorian indicated the stern man beside young Emmett. Grandpa William. He died before you were born. Did he play with you like you play with us? The question hit unexpectedly hard. He was busy, building the company, being important. Dorian absorbed this. I'm glad you're not too important for us. Emmett pulled his son close. Never, you and Ronan are the most important things in my life. More than your big building. More than anything. They flipped through more pages. Emmett's graduation. His wedding to Willa hastily planned because she was already pregnant, early company victories. Then nothing. The albums ended 5 years ago. Why aren't we in here? Dorian asked. Because I made mistakes. But we'll fill new albums now, together. Promise. Promise. A crash from the kitchen interrupted their moment. They rushed back to find sauce splattered across the marble countertops, and Beatrice looking mortified. I knocked it over reaching for oregano, she explained. Perhaps we should order takeout. Nonsense. Willa was already cleaning up. Cooking. His 90% recovery from disasters. Ronan come help cookie grandma. Soon all 3 generations were crowded in the kitchen. Ronan stirred a new pot while standing on a stool. Dorian measured ingredients with scientific precision. Beatrice struggled with a can opener until Willa gently took over. In Arkansas, we always had Sunday dinner at my grandmother's. Willa shared. Whole family crammed into a tiny kitchen. Cousins everywhere, more chaos than cooking. Sounds lovely, Beatrice said wistfully. Montgomery dinners were formal affairs, proper courses. Children ate separately until they were 12. That's sad, Ronan announced. Food tastes better with noise. You know what? Beatrice untied her apron suddenly. Forget the formal dining room. Let's eat in here. The breakfast nook. Emmett stared. The breakfast nook was cozy, intimate. Everything Montgomery gatherings weren't supposed to be. Sure. Rules are meant to be broken, she caught herself. Some rules anyway. As they squeezed around the small table meant for 4, not 5 knees bumping and elbows jostling, something magical happened. Conversation flowed as easily as the wine juice boxes for the boys. Dorian explained his science project. Ronan gave an impromptu concert with spoons. Beatrice told stories about Emmett's childhood that made him blush and the boys giggle. Dad wet the bed until he was 7. Ronan gasped with delight. Mother, Emmett protested. Oh, hush. They should know you're human. Beatrice's eyes twinkled. Besides, you turned out fine despite your nighttime challenges. Tell us more, Dorian demanded. Stories tumbled out. Emmett's failed lemonade. Stan's his teenage rebellion phase, which involved wearing the same Harvard sweatshirt for a month, the time he tried to adopt every dog at the pound. You wanted dogs, Ronan perked up. Desperately. But father said they were messy, unpredictable. Like children, Willa observed quietly. The words hung heavy until Beatrice spoke. Exactly like children. We Montgomerys weren't trained for mess, for unpredictability, for... She gestured around the chaotic table. This. But this is the best part, Dorian said simply. Beatrice reached over to ruffle his hair, a gesture so foreign to her nature that everyone froze. Yes, she agreed, softly. It really is. After dinner, while the boys explored the mansion's many rooms, the adults lingered over coffee. I owe you both an apology, Beatrice began. Not just for recent events, but for everything. The investigation, the false evidence, keeping you apart. Why? Willa asked. Help me understand why it mattered so much. Beatrice stared into her cup. Fear, I suppose. Fear that Emmett would choose love over legacy. That he'd abandon everything we'd built for happiness. Because that's what you did, Emmett realized. You chose legacy over happiness. His mother's silence was confirmation enough. It's not too late, Willa said gently. For any of us. Before Beatrice could respond, the boys thundered in. "We found a secret passage," Ronan announced. "Behind the bookshelf, can we explore it?" "After dark," Dorian added hopefully. "With flashlights, like real adventurers." Beatrice looked at these. Boys who carried her blood, but none of her baggage. "You know what, yes. Let's all explore it. I haven't been in those passages since I was a girl." As they gathered flashlights and prepared for their adventure, Emmett caught Willa's hand. "Thank you for giving her a chance, for giving us all a chance." "Family's complicated," she replied, "but it's worth fighting for." Following his son's excited chatter into hidden passages, surrounded by laughter and possibility, Emmett understood something profound. The Montgomery legacy wasn't in the boardrooms or bank accounts. It was in moments like these, imperfect, unpredictable, and absolutely precious. Real wealth, he was learning, had nothing to do with money at all. 3 weeks after the press conference, Montgomery Industries felt like a different company. The executive floor, once hushed with careful politics, now buzzed with energy, as younger employees brought fresh ideas directly to Emmett's door. "Sir, the Jensen Technologies team is here," Jenny announced, ushering in a group that looked more like a startup than corporate powerhouses. Mark Jensen, 35 and wearing jeans with his blazer, shook Emmett's hand firmly. "Thanks for seeing us. Love what you're doing here. The honesty, the family focus, it's exactly the kind of company we want to partner with." As they discussed integrating Jensen's educational software into underserved schools, starting with Hunters Point Elementary, Emmett felt the rightness of this new direction. The deal might be smaller than their lost Saudi contract, but its impact would be real, measurable, personal. "We could pilot the program by spring," Mark explained. "Free tablets for every student, adaptive learning software teacher training." "Dad!" Ronan burst through the door, followed by an apologetic Willa and a mortified Jenny. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Montgomery," Jenny stammered. "Security knows they're allowed up, but I didn't realize. It's fine." Emmett lifted Ronan onto his lap. "Actually, perfect timing. Mark, meet one of our pilot program's future beneficiaries." "Cool." Ronan studied the presentation on the screen. "Is that for our school?" "If your dad agrees to the partnership," Mark grinned. "What do you think? Should we do it?" Ronan considered seriously. "Will it help Mrs. Rodriguez? She's our teacher, and she says the computers are older than dinosaurs." The adults laughed. Mark pulled up additional slides showing teacher resources. "Absolutely. Brand new equipment and training for all teachers." "Then yes," Ronan declared. "Dad, you have to do it. Mrs. Rodriguez is the best, but she needs help." After the meeting concluded with handshakes and promises of contracts by week's end, Willa lingered as Ronan explored Emmett's office. "I'm sorry about the interruption. He got away from me in the lobby." "Never apologize for that." Emmett watched their son attempting to use the electronic whiteboard. "Best business meeting I've had in years. Besides, Mark has twin daughters. He gets it. It's just," Willa hesitated, "this is all so new. The boys in your world, I worry about confusing them." "Our world," he corrected gently, "and kids adapt better than adults. Look at Ronan. He just helped close a multi-million-dollar deal." She smiled, but concern lingered in her eyes. Dorian asked why we don't all live together, like his friend Tommy's parents. The question Emmett had been both dreading and hoping for. "What did you tell him?" "That families come in different shapes, that we're still figuring out ours." "Are we—" He moved closer. "Figuring it out." Before she could answer, his phone rang. The board chairman's ringtone. Never good news. "Emmett." Sterling's voice was tight. "We have a problem. Harrison Wells just filed intent for a hostile takeover. He's been quietly buying shares, has backing from 3 institutional investors. We need an emergency board meeting. Now." The warmth of the afternoon evaporated. "I'll be right there." "Trouble, Willa." Read his expression. Harrison Wells, he's making his move. Emmett grabbed his jacket. "Can you take Ronan home? I might be late." "Of course, Emmett." She touched his arm. "Be careful. That man's dangerous when cornered." The boardroom held an atmosphere of barely contained panic. Half the board looked shell-shocked, the other half calculating. Harrison's empty chair seemed to mock them all. "He owns 12% now. Sterling reported grimly. Combined with allied investors, he controls nearly 30%. If he sways 2 more board members, he takes control, Margaret finished. And his first act will be removing you, Emmett. Let me guess, I've damaged the company's reputation beyond repair. That's his pitch, restoring Montgomery Industries to its former glory. Very appealing to old guard shareholders who've watched stock prices tumble. Emmett studied the numbers. They had perhaps 2 weeks before Harrison could force a vote. 2 weeks to either shore up support or find a white knight investor. What about the family shares, someone asked. I control 15%, Emmett replied. Mother has another 10. Together we can block some moves, but not enough if he builds a coalition. Actually, Beatrice's voice came from the doorway. I control 18%. I've been buying quietly. Since the press conference, she entered every inch the corporate warrior. Harrison's not the only one who can play acquisition games. The room shifted. With 33% between them, the family had more leverage than anyone realized. Even so, Sterling warned, we need additional support. Institutional investors are nervous. The Jensen deal is promising but small. We need something bigger, splashier. No! Emmett's voice cut through. I'm done chasing splash. Done making decisions based on what looks good rather than what is good. Then you'll lose, Margaret said bluntly. Harrison's promising a return to stability, major partnership renewals, stock price recovery. Shareholders care about returns, not social programs. Do they, or do we just assume they do? Emmett pulled up market research Jenny had compiled. 60% of our institutional investors have millennial decision-makers now. They're pushing for ESG compliance, environmental social governance factors. Our new direction actually aligns with their mandates. Theory versus practice, someone muttered. Then let's make it practice. Emmett's mind raced. We have 2 weeks. Let's show real results. Fast-track the Jensen pilot. Announce 3 more partnerships tomorrow. I've been courting sustainable energy firms. Get a feature in the Wall Street Journal about our transformation. And if it's not enough, Sterling asked. Emmett met his mother's eyes. She nodded slightly. Then we fight. Every proxy vote, every shareholder meeting. We remind people what Montgomery Industries was built on. Innovation and risk-taking, not playing it safe. The meeting broke up with assigned tasks and deadlines. As members filed out, Beatrice approached. You know Harrison's also been talking to Cordelia. Emmett frowned. My ex-girlfriend, why? She's bitter about being dumped for your secret family. He's hoping she'll provide character assassination material, paint you as unstable, erratic. Let her try. I'm not ashamed of choosing my children. No, but be prepared. Harrison fights dirty. And he's convinced others that you're destroying everything your father built. Maybe I am. Emmett looked out at the city lights. Maybe it needs destroying to build something better. His mother squeezed his shoulder, another rare gesture of affection. Your father wasn't perfect, Emmett. He built an empire but lost his family doing it. Don't let Harrison make you choose the same path. After she left, Emmett sat alone in the darkening boardroom. His phone showed missed texts from Willa, photos of the boys doing homework, a video of Ronan practicing piano Dorian's question about constellation patterns. Another message appeared. From Mark Jensen. Loved meeting Ronan today. My daughters want to have a playdate with your boys. Also, I know 3 other tech CEOs who'd be interested in your new direction. Let's talk. Then, unexpectedly, a text from an unknown number. Heard about Harrison's move. I still have friends on the board. Maybe it's time I came home. Uncle James? The pieces were shifting, allegiances forming. Harrison Wells thought this was about stock prices and corporate control. He was wrong. This was about family. Not just the Montgomery blood relations, but the larger family being built on authentic connections and shared values. Emmett typed replies as he walked to his car. To Mark, playdate sounds perfect. Let's schedule that CEO meeting. To Uncle James, your room is waiting. The boys would love to meet you. To Willa, home late but save me dinner. We need to talk about our future. War was coming to Montgomery Industries, but for the first time in his corporate life, Emmett knew exactly what he was fighting for, and it wasn't the stock price. The doorbell of Willa's modest apartment rang at 7 a.m., an unusual hour for visitors. Emmett, who'd spent the night on the couch after their late dinner conversation, answered in yesterday's wrinkled shirt. Uncle James stood there, silver-haired but vibrant, holding a guitar case and looking like he'd stepped out of Emmett's childhood. Memories. James. Emmett stared. I didn't expect you until... Caught a red-eye from Portland. Couldn't sleep anyway after your text. James pulled him into a bear hug. 20 years, kid. 20 years too long. Uncle James, Dorian appeared, in dinosaur pajamas, rubbing sleepy eyes. The piano man from Mum's pictures. James knelt to the boy's level. You must be Dorian. Your dad says you're the smart one. He's smart too. Dorian defended his brother automatically. Just different smart. Best kind of smart. Where is the musical genius? Ronan, Dorian bellowed. The piano uncle is here. Willa emerged from the kitchen, coffee mug in hand. She'd heard Emmett's stories about James the night before, the beloved uncle who'd chosen music over money and been exiled for it. You're early, she said warmly. Coffee breakfast. Both, please, and you must be Willa. James studied her with kind eyes. The woman who saved my nephew from becoming his father. An hour later, the small apartment resonated with music. James and Ronan sat at the keyboard Willa had bought second-hand, playing a simple duet that filled the space with joy. Dorian curled on the couch with a book, but kept glancing up, drawn by the melodies. He's really good, James told Willa quietly. Natural timing, good ear. Gets frustrated with technique, but that's normal at his age. He practices constantly. Drives the downstairs neighbors crazy sometimes. They should be grateful. In 20 years, they'll brag about living below Ronan Montgomery during his early years. Emmett's phone buzzed. Sterling. Emergency. Harrison's called a shareholder. Meeting for Friday. He's moving faster than expected. The real world intruded like a discord in the morning's harmony. Emmett showed the message to James. Little Harry Wells, James mused. Still trying to prove he belongs at the adult table. You know him. Knew his father. Same desperate need. For validation disguised as ambition. What's your plan? Still forming. We need more allies, more proof that the new direction works. James considered. You know I might be able to help. I still know people. Old money types who got tired of the game. Some of them might be major shareholders. By noon, they'd relocated to Montgomery Industries. The executive floor buzzed with crisis energy as teams worked on shareholder outreach. James's presence caused double takes from older employees who remembered him. My God, James Montgomery, breathed Margaret Chen. I thought you were... dead. Exiled playing piano in dives. James grinned. All true except the first one. Maggie, you look exactly the same. She blushed. Emmett had never seen Margaret blush. It's been too long. Are you here to help? If you'll have me. Turns out teaching music for 20 years gives you connections to some interesting people, including Patricia Waverly. The room went silent. Patricia Waverly controlled one of the largest family trusts in America and held 4% of Montgomery Industries. You know Patricia Waverly? Sterling asked skeptically. I taught her granddaughter piano, lovely girl. Terrible at scales, but passionate about Chopin. Patricia and I became friends. She's very interested in Emmett's new direction, says it. Reminds her of her grandfather who built his fortune on radical innovation. Hope flickered. 4% could tip the balance. Can you arrange a meeting? Emmett asked. Already did. Dinner tonight. She wants to meet the whole family, including the boys. Says she doesn't trust men who hide their children. While teams worked on presentations, Emmett found himself in his old office, now his again, with James looking at the family photographs he'd started displaying. You've changed, James observed. The nephew, I remember, was all sharp edges and ambition. Fatherhood has a way of softening edges, or sharpening different ones. Your dad never learned that. James picked up a photo of the twins. William thought success meant never showing weakness, never admitting mistakes. It made him a titan of industry and a terrible father. Were you angry when he cut you off? Heartbroken, but also free. James set down the photo. Best thing that ever happened to me, though it took years to realize it. Found my own path. Met someone who loved me for me, not my last name. You married. 15 years now. David's a cellist. We have a good life in Portland. He smiled, at Emmett's surprise. Another reason your father disapproved, but love is love, success is success, and family is what you make it. The office door burst open. Dorian and Ronan rushed in, having been brought by Willa for lunch. Dad, Uncle James is teaching me a new song, Ronan announced, and I met Mark's daughters downstairs. They're twins too. Can they come to dinner tonight? The spontaneous suggestion sparked an idea. Actually, yes, let's make it bigger. Patricia wants to see our real direction. Let's show her. By evening, the formal Montgomery dining room had been transformed. The austere space now held multiple tables pushed together, covered with simple linens. Families mingled. Mark Jensen with his twin daughters, several employees with their children, local community leaders from Hunters Point. Patricia Waverley arrived precisely at 7, an elegant woman in her 70s who moved like someone half her age. Her sharp eyes took in everything. Mrs. Waverley, Emmett began formally. Patricia, please, and you must be the infamous twins. She smiled at the boys. I hear one of you is quite the musician. That's me, Ronan volunteered. Want to hear my wolf song? After dinner, perhaps. I never discuss business on an empty stomach. The evening unfolded like orchestrated chaos. Children ran between tables, business discussions mixed with homework help. Ronan did indeed perform his wolf song with Uncle James accompanying. Patricia watched it all, saying little but missing nothing. As dessert was served, she finally spoke. Do you know what's wrong with most corporate dynasties, Emmett? What's that? They forget why they started. My grandfather began his company to solve a problem, how to get fresh produce to urban areas. Simple mission, complex execution, but his successors forgot the mission, focused only on the money. She gestured around the room. This reminds me of his early days. Mixed tables, real problems, human connections. Harrison Wells promises to restore Montgomery Industries to its former glory. But I think you're building something better. Does that mean I'll vote my shares with the family, 4%, she smiled, and I'll speak to a few friends, the Dalton Trusts, the Pemberton Foundation. Together, we might add another 6%. Relief flooded through Emmett. With those votes, they'd have enough to block Harrison's takeover. Barely. There's one condition, Patricia added. This new direction can't be just words. I want measurable impact, real programs, and I want board representation to ensure follow-through. Done. Would you consider the position yourself? Me, I'm retired. Exactly. You have nothing to prove. No agenda except doing what's right, Patricia laughed. You're either very smart or very desperate. Perhaps both. She extended her hand. Very well, but I warn you, I'm tough on quarterly reviews. As the evening wound down and families departed, James pulled Emmett aside. Proud of you, kid. This is what family companies should be. Actual families building something together. We're not safe yet. Harrison will come at us another way. Probably, but look around. You've got real support now, not just votes, but people who believe in what you're doing. Later, as Emmett helped clean up, he found Beatrice in the kitchen with Willa, both women washing dishes and talking quietly. Never learned to cook properly, his mother was saying. Staff did everything. I regret that now. It's not too late, Willa replied. The boys love cooking, maybe weekend lessons. I'd like that. I'd like a lot of things to be different. They noticed Emmett in the doorway. Something passed between the three of them, an understanding that they were building something new from the ashes of past mistakes. Patricia's on board, he announced. We might actually win this. Of course we'll win, Beatrice said firmly. Montgomerys don't give up. We adapt. We evolve. We survive. Together, Willa added quietly. Looking at these two women who'd shaped his life in such different ways, now united in purpose, Emmett felt the foundation of something stronger than any corporate structure. Family, real messy, complicated family, was becoming his greatest asset. And Harrison Wells had no idea what he was truly up against. The shareholders' meeting was set for Friday at the St. Francis Hotel's grand ballroom, neutral ground for what everyone knew would be a corporate war. By Thursday afternoon, the battle lines were clearly drawn. Harrison's got 31% confirmed. Sterling reported, pacing Emmett's office. We have 43. That leaves 26% uncommitted. The swing votes. Emmett studied the shareholder list. Mostly institutional investors and smaller family trusts. Harrison's promising them the moon, restored dividends, traditional partnerships, immediate stock recovery. He's painting you as an idealistic crusader, putting feelings over finances. Through his office window, Emmett could see the city stretching toward the bay. Somewhere out there, his sons were at school, unaware their father's professional life hung in the balance. "Sir," Jenny appeared at the door, "you have visitors." A delegation of employees filed in, not executives but rank-and-file workers. Maria from accounting led them, looking determined, despite her obvious nerves. "We know you're busy, Mr. Montgomery," she began, "but we wanted you to know, if Harrison Wells takes over half this room, will resign immediately." Emmett stared. "I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking, we're telling." Maria stepped forward. "My son goes to school with your boys now, sees what you're doing for the community. That Jensen partnership, it's not just tablets and software, it's hope. Harrison Wells would kill all that for quarterly profits." "I have emails," added Tom from IT. "Harrison's team has been promising investors they'll cut community programs/employee development, return to core business values. Translation: squeeze every penny, forget everything else." Other employees shared similar intelligence. Harrison's vision would strip away everything human from Montgomery Industries, returning it to a profit-maximizing machine. After they left, Sterling shook his head. "Employee loyalty is nice, but it doesn't vote shares." "No, but it means something." Emmett's phone buzzed. Willa texting from the boys' school. "Principal wants to thank you personally for the Jensen program. Press will be here for the announcement. Good luck tomorrow." An idea sparked. "Sterling, what if we stop playing Harrison's game?" Meaning, "He's promising a return to the old ways. We're offering something new, but we're still debating on his terms, profit projections and stock prices. What if we change the conversation entirely?" That evening, instead of preparing traditional investor materials, Emmett's team worked on something different. They gathered testimonials from schools benefiting from new programs, compiled data on employee satisfaction and retention, documented community impact. "This is risky," Margaret warned. "Shareholders care about returns. Do they, or do we assume?" "They do." Emmett pulled up profiles of uncommitted voters. "Look closer. The Brennan Family Trust, headed by a millennial who just took over from her father. The Pacific Pension Fund, new management focused on sustainable investing. Even institutional investors are changing." His phone rang, James calling from a jazz club, where he was meeting old connections. "Nephew, you sitting down, just had drinks with Robert Ashford." "Remember him." Dad's old rival, Robert Ashford, had competed with William Montgomery for decades, their company's fierce competitors. "Same one. Turns out he owns 2% of Montgomery Industries, bought it to annoy your father years ago. He's been following your transformation. Says it's what William should have done 30 years ago. He's voting with you." Another piece shifted. 2% might not seem like much, but in a close fight, there's more, James continued. The Musicians' Union Pension Fund. They have holdings in Montgomery Industries. Small percentage, but every vote counts. They're impressed by your education initiatives. You've got their support. As pieces fell into place Thursday night, Harrison made his own moves. A leaked memo suggested Emmett was planning to donate company profits to charity. Anonymous sources claimed mental instability. Cordelia appeared on a gossip podcast painting Emmett as a man who'd abandoned her for his secret family. "Let them talk," Beatrice advised when she called. "Tomorrow we show them who we really are." Friday morning arrived grey and foggy. Emmett dressed carefully, not in his usual power suit, but in clothes that felt authentic. As he knotted his tie, small hands tugged at his jacket. "Dad." Dorian stood there, already dressed for school. "Mom says you have a big meeting today." "The biggest." "Are you scared?" Emmett knelt to his son's level. "A little, but you know what helps remembering why I'm doing this. For us, for you, for Ronan, for all the kids who deserve better chances. For the kind of company I want you to inherit someday. If you want it." Dorian considered this seriously. "I'd rather inherit the guitar. Ronan can have the company." Emmett laughed, tension breaking. "Deal. Though let's see what Ronan says about that." The St. Francis Hotel ballroom buzzed with tension as shareholders gathered. Harrison Wells held court near the registration desk, working the room with practiced charm. He'd dressed to project stability, conservative suit, traditional tie, every inch the corporate leader. "Emmett," he approached with a predatory smile, ready to face reality. "My latest count shows you're short about 8%. Still time to negotiate a graceful exit. We'll see." Inside the ballroom, camps formed naturally. Harrison's supporters clustered left, Emmett's right. The uncommitted middle drew both sides' attention. Patricia Waverley made an entrance worthy of her reputation, moving directly to Emmett's side. Her presence sent ripples through Harrison's camp. They'd clearly hoped she'd stay neutral. "Nervous?" she asked quietly. "Determined." "Good. I've been doing this longer than most people here have been alive. Win or lose, you're on the right side of history." The meeting was called to order. Harrison, as the challenging shareholder, spoke first. His presentation was polished, professional, promising a return to Montgomery Industries' golden age. Charts showed projected stock recovery. Testimonials from former partners promised renewed contracts. "Emmett Montgomery has led with his heart instead of his head," Harrison concluded. "While admirable in a father, it's dangerous in a CEO. This company needs steady leadership, not social experiments." Applause from his supporters, murmurs from the uncommitted. Then Emmett took the podium. Instead of PowerPoint slides, he started with a simple question. "Why do companies exist?" The room stilled. "Harrison promises a return to traditional values. But what traditions? My great-grandfather started this company to solve problems, bringing electricity to rural areas when no one else would. My grandfather pioneered worker safety programs when competitors called it wasteful. Real Montgomery tradition isn't about playing it safe. It's about taking risks for the right reasons." He clicked a remote. The screen showed not financial projections, but faces. Students using new tablets, employees at development programs, community centers powered by sustainable energy partnerships. "We're not abandoning profit. We're redefining it. Profit that comes from genuine value creation, not financial engineering. Profit that builds communities, not strips them." "Pretty words," Harrison called out. "But what about returns?" "Let me show you returns." Emmett pulled up different metrics. Employee retention up 40%, saving millions in turnover costs. 3 new partnerships signed this week alone with companies that share our values. The Jensen deal. It's leading to a larger educational technology initiative worth 10 times the old Saudi contract. "Projections," Harrison scoffed. "Not guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed. But I'll tell you what is certain. The world is changing. Consumers, especially younger ones, choose companies that reflect their values. Investors increasingly factor in environmental and social governance. We can lead that change or become irrelevant." Fighting it? A hand raised in the uncommitted section. The Brennan Trust representative, a woman in her early 30s. "Mr. Montgomery, your vision sounds appealing, but can you assure us this isn't just idealism, that there's solid business strategy behind it?" Before Emmett could respond, an unexpected voice spoke up. "I can answer that." Mark Jensen stood, though he wasn't a shareholder. "I'm not supposed to speak here, but Emmett's approach isn't just ethical, it's smart business. Our partnership announcement yesterday, 3 other school districts already want in. That's a $100 million pipeline. His community focus isn't charity, it's market development." Other voices joined in. The woman from the Pacific Pension Fund, Robert Ashford Williams' old rival. Even some surprising converts from Harrison's expected camp. When voting began, tension filled the air like electricity. Shares were called alphabetically. Early votes split predictably. Montgomery family shares for Emmett Harrison's coalition against. Then came the swing votes. Brennan Trust for Emmett, Pacific Pension for Emmett, Ashford Industries for Emmett. Harrison's confident expression began to crack. His assistant furiously tallied numbers, whispering urgent updates. The final count: Emmett 51.5%, Harrison 48.5%. A narrow victory, but decisive. The ballroom erupted. Cheers from Emmett's camp, stunned silence from Harrison's. "This isn't over," Harrison hissed as he passed Emmett. I'll be watching every quarter, every decision. One stumble. Then watch, Emmett replied calmly. Maybe you'll learn something. As shareholders filed out, employees who'd waited in the lobby rushed in. Maria from accounting actually hugged him. Tom from IT looked close to tears. You did it, Sterling said, rare emotion in his voice. David beat Goliath. We did it, all of us. His phone buzzed with messages. Willa. Boys want to know if you won. They're planning victory dances. Beatrice. Proud of you. Your father would be too even if he couldn't admit it. James. Celebration jam session tonight, my treat. Standing in the emptying ballroom, Emmett felt the weight of victory, not arrogance but responsibility. He'd promised a new way forward. Now came the hard part, delivering on that promise. But surrounded by people who believed in the vision, from board members to janitors, from his recovered family to new allies, he knew they'd find a way. The old Montgomery Industries had died in that ballroom. Something better was being born. And this time it was built on truth, not appearances, on connection, not isolation, on family in all its forms. The real work was just beginning. 3 months. After the shareholder battle, Montgomery Industries hummed with renewed purpose. The Jensen Education Program had expanded to 20 schools. Sustainable energy partnerships were yielding unexpected innovations. Stock prices, after initial volatility, had begun a steady climb that surprised even optimistic analysts. But on this crisp December morning, Emmett faced a different kind of challenge as he stood in Willa's apartment, watching her pack lunches for the boys. I've been thinking, he began, then stopped. The words he'd rehearsed seemed inadequate now. About, Willa glanced up, catching his serious tone. About us, about what we're doing here. He gestured around the small apartment that had become as familiar as his own home. I'm here every morning. I tuck the boys in most nights. We're living like a family, but in 2 places. Her hands stilled on Ronan's sandwich. Emmett, I know we've been taking things slow, rebuilding trust. But Willa, He took a breath. I bought a house in Noe Valley. Nothing ostentatious. 4 bedrooms, a yard, good schools nearby. Close enough to Hunter's Point that the boys wouldn't have to change schools if you didn't want them to. She turned to face him, fully expression unreadable. You bought a house. I did, but I haven't signed the final papers, because it's not my decision alone. He pulled out his phone, showing her photos. It needs work. The kitchen's outdated. The garden's overgrown. But there's a room perfect for Ronan's music. A study where Dorian could build his projects. A master suite with a view of the city. Emmett, are you asking us to move in with you? I'm asking for more than that. He set down the phone, taking her hands. I'm asking for a second chance, not just as co-parents, but as partners, as a family, a real family under one roof. Tears gathered in her eyes. After everything, after what I cost you with Harrison, the board fights, you cost me nothing. You gave me everything. He pulled her closer. 5 years ago, I was building an empire, but had no idea what it was for. Now I know it's for them, for you, for the life we could have together. Mom, Dad. Dorian stood in the doorway, backpack on. Are you okay? Ronan appeared beside him. Is Mom crying? Who made Mom cry? Happy tears, Willa assured them, wiping her eyes. Your dad's asking us something important. What? Ronan demanded. Emmett knelt to their level. How would you guys feel about us all living together, in a new house where you'd each have your own room, but we'd all be under the same roof? The boys exchanged glances in that wordless communication, twins perfect over time. Would grandmother visit there too? Dorian asked practically. Would Uncle James come for music lessons? Ronan added. Yes to both. It would be our home, all of us. And we'd be a regular family. Dorian's voice held cautious hope. Like Tommy's family, where everyone lives in the same place. We're already a family, Emmett said firmly. This would just make it easier to be together. I vote yes, Ronan declared. Can I paint my room blue? Any color you want. Dorian studied his parents' faces with those perceptive green eyes. Mum, do you want this too? Willa looked at Emmett, then at their sons. I want us to be happy, all of us, together. Is that? Yes, Emmett asked softly. It's a show me the house and we'll talk, she replied, but her smile said more. After school, he suggested. All of us. After school. As the boys gathered their things for school, chattering excitedly about potential room colors and yard possibilities, Willa caught Emmett's arm. "This is big," she said quietly. "Complicated. We have a lot to work through. Trust issues, family dynamics, how to blend our worlds." "I know, but Willa, I've spent 3 months waking up and wishing you were there, going to bed wondering if you're okay, watching the boys shuttle between 2 homes when they should have one. We've proven we can co-parent. Now let me prove we can. Be more. And if it doesn't work, if we fail again, then we'll fail trying something worth fighting for. But what if we don't fail? What if we get it right this time?" She studied him. This man who'd transformed from corporate shark to devoted father who'd risked everything for authenticity over appearance. "Okay," she whispered, "let's go see this house." That afternoon, as winter sun slanted through bare trees, they stood before a Victorian house with good bones and better potential. The boys raced through rooms claiming spaces and imagining possibilities. "This could be my practice room," Ronan spun in what was currently a sun porch. "Uncle James could bring his piano." "The garage would be perfect for science projects," Dorian added. "And there's room for a garden. Mom, you could grow tomatoes, like you always wanted." Willa walked through, slowly touching doorframes, peering into closets. Emmett followed, seeing it through her eyes, not as a real estate investment, but as a potential home. "The kitchen needs everything redone," she observed. "We'd do it together. Your choices, your design." "The master bedroom." She paused in the doorway of the large room with bay windows overlooking the city. "Has room for all your book piles," he finished, "and that antique dresser you love, but can't fit in your current place." She turned to him. "You've thought about this? Every detail. Every morning when I leave your apartment to go to my empty place. Every night when I say goodnight and drive away. This isn't impulse, Willa, it's certainty." "Dad," Ronan called from downstairs, "there's a room that could be grandmother's when she visits, and a basement for movie nights." "Mom," Dorian added, "the backyard has a perfect tree for a swing." Willa walked to the bay window, looking out at the view, city lights beginning to twinkle in the gathering dusk, the bridge in the distance, the whole tapestry of San Francisco spread below. "It's beautiful," she said softly. "It's empty," Emmett corrected, joining her. "Just walls and views. You'd make it a home." She turned to him then, and he saw it in her eyes. Not just acceptance, but hope. "When would we move?" "Whenever you're ready. No pressure, we do this at your pace. The boys' winter break that would give us time to prepare to talk through everything." "Perfect." From downstairs came the sound of the boys' laughter, their voices echoing through empty rooms, soon to be filled with life. "Emmett." Willa's voice was soft. "I never stopped loving you. Even when I hated what happened, even when I thought we were done forever. The love just went underground. And now I think maybe it's time to let it grow again. In this house. In this life we're building." He kissed her, then there in the empty room full of promise, while their sons' voices drifted up from below, and the city lights sparkled with possibility. Later, as they locked up the house, their house, Ronan grabbed both parents' hands. "We're really going to live here, all of us." "All of us," Emmett confirmed. "Even Montgomery?" Dorian asked. Emmett frowned. "Who's Montgomery?" "Our dog, Ronan," announced. "We don't have him yet, but we will. Every family needs a dog." Willa laughed, the free, unfettered laugh Emmett remembered from their early days. "When did we agree to a dog?" "Just now," Ronan said confidently. "Right, Dad?" Emmett met Willa's eyes over their son's head. She shrugged, smiling. "Right," he agreed. "Montgomery the dog. Perfect addition to the family." As they drove back through the city, not to separate homes but to pack for a shared future, Emmett understood that this was what he'd been fighting for all along. Not market share or stock prices, but this moment, this choice, this chance to rebuild what fear and pride had once destroyed. The Montgomery legacy was evolving again from corporate dynasty to something richer, realer, and infinitely more valuable a home filled with love, laughter, and the beautiful chaos of family. 6 months later, on a perfect June afternoon, the Noe Valley house overflowed with celebration. Dorian and Ronan's 6th birthday party had drawn an eclectic crowd that would have horrified the old Montgomery social register, but perfectly represented their new life. "Higher, Dad, higher!" Ronan squealed from the tree swing Emmett had installed in their first week. Nearby, Dorian carefully helped younger children with a science experiment, baking soda volcanoes that erupted with colorful foam. Willa emerged from the kitchen carrying a tray of her grandmother's chocolate cupcakes, her engagement ring catching the sunlight. They'd decided on a small ceremony for later that summer, family only in this backyard that had become their sanctuary. "Need help?" Beatrice appeared at her side, still looking slightly uncertain in her casual clothes. The Montgomery matriarch had embraced many changes, but wearing jeans remained a work in progress. "Could you grab the lemonade? James is setting up his surprise in the music room." The house hummed with purposeful chaos. Mark Jensen chatted with other tech parents near the grill while their children played. Maria from accounting helped arrange gifts on the dining room table. Patricia Waverley, now a regular at family dinners, sat in deep conversation with several teachers from Hunters Point Elementary. Even Sterling had come bringing his grandchildren and a bemused expression at the informal atmosphere. "Emmett," he said, catching his CEO by the drinks table, "the quarterly reports came in. We're up 18%. The education initiative is getting national attention. 3 Fortune 500 companies want to discuss partnerships." "Sterling." Emmett grinned. "It's Saturday, my son's birthday. No business." Right. Sterling grabbed a juice box, looking at it suspiciously. "Though I must say this whole transformation, it's actually working. Because it's real, authentic value creation, remember? I remember thinking you'd lost your mind. Now I'm thinking maybe the rest of us were the crazy ones." A commotion from the music room drew everyone's attention. James emerged, ushering the children inside. "Performance time. Our birthday boys have prepared something special." The music room, once a formal parlor, now held 2 pianos, the baby grand. Beatrice had donated and an upright for lessons. Ronan took his place at the grand, while Dorian surprisingly sat at a small keyboard set up nearby. "We wrote a song," Ronan announced proudly, "about our family." What followed wasn't polished or perfect. Ronan played the melody while Dorian added electronic beats from his keyboard, an unlikely fusion that somehow worked. Then they began to sing, their young voices telling a story. Once there was a family living far apart, Daddy in his tower, Mama's broken heart, but love is like a river finding its way home. Now we're all together, never more to roam. The chorus was simple, repetitive in the way children's songs often are, but the sentiment brought tears to more than a few eyes. Family isn't perfect. Family can be strange. Sometimes it gets broken, sometimes it has to change. But love keeps getting. Stronger love helps us grow. We're the Montgomery family, and now we know. As they finished, the room erupted in applause. Beatrice wiped her eyes openly. James beamed with pride. Even Sterling looked suspiciously misty. "Bravo," called Patricia Waverley. "You boys have your great-grandfather's innovation spirit, just in musical form." The celebration continued into the evening. As the sun set, casting golden light through the garden, Emmett found himself on the back porch with Harrison Wells. His arrival had shocked everyone. The man who'd tried to destroy Emmett's vision stood awkwardly holding a wrapped gift. "I wasn't sure I'd be welcome," Harrison began. "Why did you come?" Harrison was quiet for a long moment. "I've been watching. Your company's success, your family." He gestured toward the yard where Dorian was showing other children constellations in the darkening sky. "My own son won't speak to me. Says I care more about stock prices than people." Maybe he's right. "It's never too late to change," Emmett offered. "Is it? Can you really remake yourself at 60? My mother did. Look at her." Emmett nodded toward the garden where Beatrice was helping Ronan serve cake, laughing as frosting smeared across her silk blouse. The woman who once cared only about appearances is now happiest covered in birthday cake. Harrison watched the scene, something softening in his expression. "My father was like yours. Built an empire, lost his family. I swore I'd be different, then followed exactly in his footsteps. The difference is you recognize it. That's the first step. Harrison held out the gift, a children's book about second chances. For the boys, and I'm sorry for everything, the takeover attempt, the personal attacks, fear makes us do terrible things. Apology accepted. Emmett took the gift. Stay. Favor cake. As twilight settled, the party naturally moved indoors. The boys opened presents with enthusiasm. Art supplies for Ronan's science kits for Dorian, and from Uncle James sheet music for a duet he'd composed especially for them. Montgomery the dog, a golden retriever puppy they'd adopted 3 months, wove between guests hoping for dropped food. He'd proven to be the perfect addition patient with the boys' enthusiasm, and somehow knowing when anyone needed comfort. Speech, someone called as Willa brought out a second cake, this one homemade, slightly lopsided, with Happy 6th Birthday DNR in wobbly frosting. Emmett stood pulling Willa close. 6 years ago, I missed the most important day of my life, the day these two came into the world. I've spent every day since trying to make up for that absence. He looked around the room, at colleagues who'd become friends, at family members who'd transformed from strangers to supporters, at a community that had embraced their unconventional journey. But here's what I've learned. You can't make up for lost time. You can only make the most of the time you have, and every day with this family, our beautifully imperfect, wonderfully chaotic family, is a gift I never knew I needed. To Dorian. Anne Ronan, Beatrice raised her glass of lemonade. Who taught us all what matters most? As toasts echoed through the house, Emmett caught Willa's eye. She smiled, that knowing look that said everything. How far they'd come, how much they'd overcome, how much joy lay ahead. Later, after guests had departed and the boys were finally asleep, sugar crashes being the only force strong enough to still their energy, Emmett and Willa sat on their porch swing, surveying the gentle chaos of their backyard. Remember that first dinner, Willa mused. At the diner when you met them properly. Feels like yesterday and forever ago. I was so scared, afraid of hoping, afraid of letting you back in. And now, she leaned into him, now I can't imagine any other life. Though I sometimes wonder, what would have happened if we'd worked things out 6 years ago? We weren't ready, Emmett reflected. I needed to lose everything to understand what mattered. You needed to find your strength alone before we could be strong together. The boys needed to know who they were before adding me to the equation. So no regrets, none. Every mistake, every struggle led us here. He gestured to their home, their life. To this. A sound from inside made them turn. Through the window they could see Beatrice in the kitchen, teaching James her grandmother's cookie recipe. The one she'd attempted months ago with lumpy results. They were laughing, flour dusting the counter, creating new traditions from old ones. Your mother's staying the night, Willa asked. Guest room's already made up. She wants to make the boys breakfast tomorrow. Apparently she's been practicing pancake art. From society matriarch to pancake artist. Quite the journey. We've all been on journeys. Emmett pulled her closer. Look at us. From broken marriage to this. You from overwhelmed single mother to business school graduate running our community initiatives. The boys from fatherless to surrounded by family. Even the company transformed from profit machine to something with purpose. The city lights twinkled below them. San Francisco never sleeping but somehow peaceful from their hillside perch. Inside Montgomery, the dog woofed softly in his sleep, probably dreaming of chasing squirrels with the boys. What's next? Willa asked. We've rebuilt the family, transformed the company, created this life. What's the next mountain to climb? Maybe there isn't one. Maybe the next adventure is just this. Ordinary days, baseball practices and piano recitals, board meetings balanced with bedtime stories, growing older together watching the boys become whoever they're meant to be. Ordinary magic, she murmured. Exactly. A door creaked open behind them. Dorian stood there in dinosaur pajamas, rubbing his eyes. Can't sleep, buddy, Emmett asked. Had a dream. About when we all didn't live together. Got scared it was real. Emmett lifted his son onto the swing between them. Very real now. Very permanent. Forever? Dorian asked. Forever, Willa confirmed, kissing his head. Good. Because Ronan and I decided, when we grow up, we want the company. Emmett raised an eyebrow. Both of you, I thought Ronan wanted to be a rock star. He does. But he says rock stars need day jobs. I'll run the business side, he'll run the creative parts. Like you and Mom, you do the business stuff, she does the people stuff. The simple wisdom of children. Emmett exchanged amused glances with Willa over their son's head. Sounds like a plan, but maybe finish first grade first. Deal, Dorian yawned. Can we stay here a little, all of us? So they sat on the swing, the three of them, rocking gently in the June night. Soon, Ronan would wake and join them probably, dragging Montgomery along. Beatrice might wander out with her successful batch of cookies. James would play soft jazz from the music room. This was wealth Emmett understood now, not the numbers in bank accounts or the towers bearing his name, but these moments, these connections, this family that had found its way back to wholeness through broken places. The Montgomery legacy lived on, not in stock prices or corporate victories, but in the laughter of children, the forgiveness between generations, the courage to choose love over fear. As Dorian dozed between his parents, safe and certain of his place in the world, Emmett made a mental note to update his biography. Emmett Walsh Montgomery, it would read, father, partner, CEO, in that order, builder of bridges between worlds. Proof that it's never too late to choose what matters most. The city below sparkled with a million stories, but none more precious than this one, a family that had been scattered to the winds, now gathered home at last. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to balance ambition with humanity. But tonight, on a porch swing in Noe Valley, surrounded by the people he loved most, Emmett Montgomery was exactly where he belonged. The circle was complete. The journey continued, and the best chapters were still being written.